What's up, everyone? I hope you're doing well today. This is Raphael Garcia here by myself for episode 149 of the MMA Ratings Podcast. I thank you, as usual, for taking the time to listen to us on this 21st day of January. My good friend and partner, Shawan Humes, just sent me a message saying he is out of the shows for tonight because he's at a basketball game for his little girls. As you know, we always often talk about his children on the show. They always come first. So unfortunately, he is out today, but he will be back next week, and I'm sure we will have a lot to talk about then, just like we have to talk about tonight. Now, UFC 246 is going to be the focus of tonight's show. We're also going to do some high level previewing of UFC Raleigh, which is this weekend, the 25th. But most of our focus will be on Saturday's action due to the return of Conor McGregor. But before I do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen to the show. You can follow MMA Ratings on Instagram and Twitter at MMA Ratings Net. You can catch us on YouTube at MMA Ratings, and also you can go to our website at MMARatings.net, where you can rate the fights, let us know what you thought about all the action from start to finish using our 10-star system, and you can also tell us how excited you are for the upcoming of fights. Again, that is MMAratings.net, where you can go check out all the work that I write, Adam Martin writes, Michael does some writing, Shawan as well. But the big caveat there is you'll be able to go to the site and rate the fights and tell us what you think before, during, and after. And you can always follow me at rgarcia_sports, where I'm talking MMA, professional wrestling, just about everything from within the combat sports space and sports beyond as well too. So again, thank you for taking the time to check us out tonight, and I hope you enjoyed the show as I'm going to be talking about UFC 246 and UFC Raleigh. So the first part of the show is, of course, we're going to talk about the big fight from this past Saturday where Conor McGregor fought Donald Cerrone, and you can use, well, I'm not going to say use the term fight loosely because it was a 40-second drumming where McGregor got to finish via strikes in round one of the main event. And this is a pretty big moment for a number of reasons. In my opinion, looking at how the fight result went down, I think this is the best possible outcome for McGregor and the UFC. He regained some of that mystique he had back when he was knocking out Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, Eddie Alvarez, and all those opponents. And the UFC gets their biggest drawback, and they get him back in a way without the throwing of the dolly and all those other shenanigans. We still have to have a conversation about the two sexual assault investigations going on in Ireland. I'm going to touch on that in a second. But in regards to what happened inside the octagon on Saturday, this was the best possible outcome for the organization and McGregor as a whole. He immediately inserts himself into the big fight picture at welterweight and lightweight. UFC President Dana White is already pushing for the rematch with Khabib Nurmagomedov, and at first glance, that may seem like the bigger fight to make. But after, I was actually doing some thinking today in the gym, and I was wondering if that's the fight to go, or if they should go and make the Jorge Masvidal fight first. In my opinion, I think the Masvidal fight should come first because losing that fight, I think you lose a lot for nearly everyone involved. I think that this this fight reminds me of what we had back in the day when we had GSP and Anderson Silva so close to each other in weight class and so close to each other in dominance, and the UFC cannot get them into the cage together. That fight lost the moment guys started losing and GSP stepped away from the sport. That fight lost all of its cachet, and we don't want to see the same thing happen to McGregor and Masvidal here. If you took Conor and put him against Khabib, that's a fight that I think he still loses to this day. If you took Jorge and put him against Kamaru Usman, I think that's a fight that he loses, and that immediately takes all the value out of this fight when it comes to McGregor and Masvidal. I think that fight needs to be made first, and you go from there. On one hand, everyone's talking about the Khabib rematch as if he doesn't have to fight Tony Ferguson in April coming up. Everyone's talking about that fight as if it hasn't even happened yet. It's a foregone conclusion that almost as if it's a foregone conclusion that Khabib will defeat Tony. And we've seen crazier things happen in MMA. So I don't think that it's fair to Tony Ferguson, who hasn't lost since in what 12 fights or something like that, something ridiculous, who hasn't lost in years, to almost overlook him and act like he doesn't have a shot at taking the lightweight title. So I think that there's some pause that needs to be given to automatically believing that Khabib is going to face Conor McGregor next. Then on the other side of that, I think that it's also important to book that fight because the Masvidal McGregor fight, because McGregor's been talking about, he's not talking about opponents, he's talking about dates. And the March card is what he is kind of looking at next. I can't remember who currently is the headliner for that March card. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. But the fact that he's talking about fighting in March, I think that booking that fight against Masvidal is the right way to go, especially then because you already have the hype and anticipation for both men. They were talking to Masvidal cage side throughout the night, showing him on the camera multiple times throughout the night. His media scrum from the week is trending, and while Kamaru Usman may be the champion, there really isn't any uh, there really isn't aren't a lot of people calling for that fight. And the March UFC card is UFC 248, which is Adesanya versus Romero. That's also in Las Vegas. Now, you have Adesanya and Romero as the headliner of that card, but I wouldn't be mad if Conor McGregor stepped in and made it the main event. You already have two title fights scheduled for that bout. You have Israel Adesanya and Yoel Romero. You also have Wiley Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. But adding a third title fight blows that fight card out the water, and especially if it's that one. And I'm not saying that the Masvidal McGregor fight is a quote unquote title fight, but it is a fight that they could hype up that BMF title and do all that nonsense. So in my opinion, I've actually kind of just switched my thoughts about that in the last hour or so as I was lifting weights earlier thinking about this. But I do believe that the right angle to go for McGregor next is to book him against Jorge Masvidal and get that fight out of the way while we can still make that big fight deal, get everybody paid, and that automatically increases. That fight would increase the interest in both men. I could see, man, the promotion around that would be amazing. And there's so much opportunity for both of those guys in UFC as a whole. They are the organization's two biggest stars right now. And I think leveraging that while you still can is key. Striking while the iron is hot is big in promotion, and the iron will not be as hot as it is right now for the idea of putting McGregor and Masvidal in the cage together. So I think that that's the way that they need to go. Another thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to McGregor is how well did he look. We didn't get much from him. Like I said, we only got 40 seconds worth of action, but in what we saw, it was enough that it allows us to get excited about what's next without having the questions that we needed to have answered complete after UFC 246. Having those questions still out there gives us an opportunity to anticipate what's going to happen when he and Masvidal face off, or whoever he does contest face off against next. Does he still have cardio issues? Does he still is his grappling better? Is his takedown defense better? Like all of these types of questions still linger. Does his power translate at 170 pounds? You can say, yeah, he knocked out Donald Cerrone, but Donald Cerrone has also fought most of his career at lightweight. When he faced off against bigger welterweights, we saw what his where the struggle was with him being able to take power. So I don't think all of those questions are answered quite yet based on what we saw at UFC 246, but I think we still saw enough that it gets people excited for what's going to happen next, and it gets people excited for anything that he could be involved with. So I think that this is the right time, as I just mentioned, to strike while the iron is hot and get him in there with Jorge Masvidal. When it comes to Donald Cerrone and asking what's next, my first thought is I hope it's time off. This man has fought a murderer's row since joining the UFC, and I mean he continues to do so. Look, in the last calendar year, and this is just the last 12 months. So let's go back to January of 2019. He's fought Alex Hernandez, Al Iaquinta, Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, and Conor McGregor. He lost the last three via TKO, and he hasn't made it out of the second round. Yes, we love the idea of Donald Cerrone being that cowboy, that gunslinger who steps into the cage anytime the UFC asks him. We all love that. We all enjoy that, and we all think the most of him, and everyone's always excited when he does that. But at some point in time, we gotta ask him to dial it back just a little bit. Yes, he loves fighting. Yes, he loves to get in there and keep the crowd excited. But at some point in time, we need to talk about dialing it back just a tad, and giving him an opportunity to recover from these fights before going out there and doing it again. He's 36 years old. I think he turns 37 in March. So yeah, let's start having those conversations about winding it back just a little bit. This man doesn't need to fight so many times in a year. I mean, in 2019 he fought four times. 2018 he fought three. 2017 he fought three. 2016 he fought four. 2015 he fought four times. 2014 he fought four times. 2013 he fought four times. 2012 he fought twice. 2011 he fought, let's see, five times. I mean, this guy's fighting damn near once a quarter. That's just bonkers. Once a quarter. And if you think like you have no time to recover, no time to get built back up for the next fight. There's so much to really unpack there that I think that it's time that we just ask him to take a little bit of time off, come back, and let's get excited about him coming back, because I think he could still offer some value to the organization if he's booked in the right type of matches. This guy, he's not a bum. He's not going out here losing to just jobbers off the street. Excuse me. Look who he's losing to. Conor McGregor, former champion. Justin Gaethje, he was a World Series of Fighting champion, arguably top three contender to the lightweight title. Tony Ferguson, former interim champion, number one contender to the title. Leon Edwards, welterweight contender. Darren Till, former he challenged for the middleweight title. Robbie Lawler, former champion. Jorge Masvidal, probably number two welterweight contender, former Strikeforce challenger. Rafael dos Anjos, former champion. Who else is he losing to? Rafael dos Anjos again, former champion. Anthony Pettis, former champion. Nate Diaz, we know who Nate Diaz is. Benson Henderson, former champion. Jamie Varner, former champion. I mean, he's only getting defeated by guys who have tasted gold or are right at the cusp of tasting gold. So it's still too soon to say that Donald Cerrone is done, and I'm doing that in air quotes. But he still needs some time away, and I hope he takes a step back and is given the opportunity to just take some time off, recover, come back well rested, healthy. I mean, I would be happy if he sat out to, let's say, September, August. Come back then, fight one time, maybe one more time for the end of the year, do your thing, be healthy, and bring back the cowboy of old. But getting right back on the proverbial horse and getting right back into the octagon, I think is going to lead to more damage than it does good. I wanted to move on from this and talk about the rest of UFC 246. And what was interesting about this card heading into it is a lot of people were talking about how bad the card was and it wasn't a lot of value on it. Me personally, when I looked at the card, I was like, this looks like a good card to me. I'm interested in a lot of these fights, and I want to see what comes out from all of this action. Now, the only fight I wasn't that interested in was Holly Holm and Raquel Pennington, and you kind of saw why. We know who Holly Holm is, and she is the type of fight she is going to do what's necessary to get the win. Can she knock people out? Yep, we've seen that time and time again. But she's changed her style now that she can not only do enough point striking, but she can also grapple well enough to negate a lot of the offense that her opponents have. And she does enough that she negates offense and scores enough points to win in the judges' eyes. And that's what she did to Raquel Pennington here. Raquel Pennington may have said that she wanted to fight and she didn't want to hug, which is a great one-liner, a great little snippet of an interview. But when you are fighting MMA, you have to be able to dictate where the fight takes place. And if you can't get yourself off the cage, if you can't get out the clinch, if you can't create separation, you're playing into your opponent's strengths. And that's exactly what happened here with Holly Holm. We've seen her build up her ability to grapple since probably the Miesha Tate loss, and she continues to improve in that area. The Megan Anderson victory was a big eye opener for a lot of people. This fight here, I'm not gonna say it was an eye opener to anyone, but it shows that she's willing to be able to do enough to defeat the non-champion caliber of the women's bantamweight and featherweight division. I mean, the same deal goes with Holm that goes with Cerrone. She's only lost to champions. She's lost to, pull it real quick, Amanda Nunes, double champion. Christine Justino, featherweight champion. Jermaine Durandamy, featherweight champion. Just fought for the bantamweight title. Valentina Shevchenko fought for the bantamweight title, flyweight champion. Miesha Tate, former champion. So it's hard to say that, yeah, she's on her way out. She's 38 years old, but the people coming up can't beat her. She can't get back to being a champion. So what do you do with her? I think you just let her keep fighting you, and you figure out how to get her in front of people that aren't up and comers at a time when they can't defeat her. But she did what she needed to do to get the job done on Saturday, and I'm not mad at her for it. Alexei Oleinik versus Maurice Green. I'm not really going to talk about that fight too much. It was what it was. It was exactly what we thought it was going to be. Alexei trying to get the takedown, get to submission position. That's just what he did. And we saw how that played out for Maurice Green. Maurice Green did the best he could, fighting everything off. But at the end of the day, he couldn't get the job done because he got himself armbarred. He almost got himself Ezekiel choked and Scarfold and basically headlocked a couple times. But I mean, he did the best he could. I'm not even gonna be mad at him for that. Alexei Oleinik is one of those guys, as I tweeted out on Saturday. I would love to see him come to my gym and just watch him beat up on the young guys. I got a couple guys that popped out into my mind right now that I would immediately pair him against because he's 47 years old. He's out there doing the damn thing, and I mean, I can't be mad at this victory. So what else do we have? Let me see. Let me see. Brian Kelleher, I mean, that was a sick choke that he tried to finished. Not really too much to talk about there. Diego Ferreira and Anthony Pettis. I mean, Diego did the damn thing. He went out there, was able to thwart Anthony Pettis' striking, get into grappling range, and secure the finish via rear naked choke. I don't know if that's more of a boost for Diego than it is an indictment for Anthony. He just doesn't seem like Showtime anymore. Let's see what his record has looked like up to this point. Anthony Pettis has lost his last two to Nate Diaz, Diego Ferreira, and he also lost to Tony Ferguson. Dustin Poirier, he's been exchanging wins and losses for the last 4 years. Um, I mean, since defeating Gilbert Melendez, he's gone 1, 2, 3. He's gone 4-3-8, 4-8 in the UFC. I didn't know it was that bad, but he's gone 4-8 in the UFC since defeating Gilbert Melendez, and that's pretty. Wow, that's pretty telling there. I don't know if he's going to end up in Bellator like his brother Sergio, but I did not realize that his record had gotten that bad. And he's losing to guys again. He Look who he's losing to: Rafael dos Anjos, former champion; Eddie Alvarez, former champion; Max Holloway, former champion; Dustin Poirier, former interim champion; Toyin Ferguson, former interim champion. Nate Diaz, Edson Barbosa, and Diego Ferreira, though, you gotta look at those fights and wonder if perhaps his time has come. Again, he's still relatively young. Let me see how old. He is. He's only 30. He's 32 years old. He's a bit older than I thought he was. So yeah, you got to wonder what his stock is left with the UFC and if they'll keep him around. I would not be surprised if this was his last appearance in the octagon. Diego, on the other hand, he's won 6 straight, I believe. Pull up his record. Oh, he's won 6 straight and 3 by stoppage, 3 by submission. I think this guy gets a top 10 opponent next, and I'm interested in seeing what he does because I'm a fan of grappling, and there was a lot of grappling, a lot of clean, consistent, strong grappling on UFC 246 across the card. You had a bunch of submission wins, and you had also a bunch of people using grappling to dominate the position battle, which I also think is important, especially these next 2 fights here, where you have Roxanne Modafferi defeating Maycee Barber. Roxanne was the biggest underdog on this card, and this win here was important. Man, you can't keep counting out Roxanne. She was an underdog when she fought Antonia Shevchenko. She won that fight. She was an underdog when she fought Maycee Barber. She wins here as well. She is currently ranked number 5 in the division behind Jennifer Maia, Joanne Calderwood, Jessica Ai, and Caitlin Chukagian. So I am not saying Roxanne will rise up to be a title contender at any point, but she just keeps getting better and she continues to go out there and just exemplify everything that martial arts means. I mean, she is, let's see how old she is. She's 37. She's been fighting since I think it was 2003. I looked this up while I was writing about, yeah, she's been fighting since 2003. And she just keeps getting win after win after win. I mean, she keeps, well, she's more at a position where she's exchanging wins and losses. You know, she fought for the title against Nico Montano. She lost there. Then, she defeated Barb Honchak, lost to Sajara Eubanks, defeated Antonia Shevchenko, lost to Jennifer Maia. What's important about this is that she's not getting stopped. I mean, she hasn't been stopped since, man, the last time Roxanne Modafferi was stopped was back in 2011 when Barb Honchak submitted her, a fight which she's gotten the revenge for. She's been stopped 4 times in her professional career. The last time was back in 2011. So I mean, she's doing it. Like she's doing it. I don't know what the UFC wants to do with her. I think she has a great story. I love her. I think people cheer her on just because she's such a lovable hero that people can look up to, both male and female. It's just, I wonder what they are going to do with her long term. They can't, I don't think they're going to throw her into the title picture yet. She has lost to Jennifer Maia, who's ranked number 4. So you maybe Joanne Calderwood and Jessica Ai at some point in time. We'll see. I wouldn't be mad at either one of those fights, and I would guarantee you she's not going to be as big of a underdog either during those times. I also want to talk about Maycee Barber and the injuries she suffered. Reports are that she suffered a full ACL tear, and the question I have, I'm actually going to be writing about that tonight, is whether or not her corner should have stopped that fight, which I think is an important question because, in my opinion, I think they should have. At 21 years old, you don't want to risk that much. You don't want to risk the damage to that knee as she was suffering because clearly she was in pain. She was screaming out every time she tried to stand up. She couldn't stand up towards the end of the fight. She tried to do all of her grappling, and yeah, she got to some better positions. She was able to reverse. I think just had a brute strength and be able to get on top. But she couldn't do anything with it, and Modafferi was able to reverse the position to get back on top. And what's also important and worth noting here is that Modafferi said she didn't want to target Maycee Barber's leg, which, in my opinion, speaks so much of Roxanne Modafferi in her, I guess her personality and morals. I don't necessarily say morals per se, but if that was my fighter and you see your opponents hurt like that, I'm like, yo, leg kicks all day, every day. We're chopping that leg out and we're gonna make her quit. But Roxanne didn't go that route, and I mean, she's better than me. That would have been a strategy the minute she messed up her leg. I think it's also interesting that the ref allowed it to go on because it was clear that Maycee Barber could not walk. It was almost clear, like when she tried to get up after the ref checked her knee. I mean, it was clear that she was using her poker face. And yeah, she's tough, she's gritty for that, but whoo boy, we're gonna see what her return might look like. I hope we're not seeing some type of long-term damage that limits her career. Joe Rogan should have snatched the microphone away from her because she should have, I mean, you lost. Should have never been on the mic because she's actually taking away from Roxanne's moment, talking about her injury allowed Roxanne to shine. No, she was beating you before you got hurt. But it is what it is. And I don't think Macy Barber would have been able to stop her from taking her back down and getting back to dominant position again, like she did in the first round. So the other fight I wanted to talk about was Sodiq Yusuff and Andre Fili. We saw that Yusuff got, I mean, this was a fight of different layers. At one point, it was a back and forth striking affair where Fili was landing, but Youssef was definitely landing the bigger, harder shots. Anytime he landed a shot, you saw Youssef's head, or excuse me, Fili's head snap back almost to like looking the other direction. He was taking a lot of big shots there. So Sadiq did what he needed to do. He was able to grapple throughout the second round as well. I think he got a 10-8 on one scorecard there. I saw a few people talking about how his cardio is still questionable. I didn't see that so much, but I wonder if that's really the case. I think he needs to get a top 10 to 15 ranked opponent for his next fight at featherweight. That would put him in there against, let's see, I mean, there's some names. Miroslav Betic, Ryan Hall. That fight right there. Ryan Hall is looking for a fight. Nobody wants to fight him. Oh, I think that would be a tough ask for Hall. You got Shane Burgos and Calvin Kattar. So I think that there's some opportunity with each one of those men. Me personally, I would like to see that Ryan Hall fight. So let's see if they can get that fight booked because the Jiu-Jitsu Wizard has been looking for a fight for a long time. And even though he's called out Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar, let's get him and Sodiq in there together and see what kind of comes out of that fight. Let's see what else. I don't really want to talk about too much else from the card on Saturday. Sabina Mazo, she was able to adjust. I was actually surprised she got the split decision there. I don't remember the third round, but I think that JJ Aldrich was doing enough. I thought she was going to get the decision there. Alexa Kamar over Justin Ledet. Okay, whatever. Drew Dober knocking the hell out of Nasserat Hakparas. I think that's how you say his name in the first round. That was a good one there. Aksar Askarov blasting Tim Elliott in the first round, but unable to finish him. I think that was big there too. But Tim Elliott, man, I don't know what the hell he was doing, allowing himself to get punched in the face for that third round. Because I think he still could have stole a victory there if he was actually fighting back. But when you allow yourself to get punched in the face like that, you're going to lose 10 times out of 10. So UFC 246 was a much stronger card than I think people wanted to give the event credit for. I enjoyed it from start to finish. We got a big moment with Conor McGregor at the top, and we're going to see what's next for him. My vote is on the not Justin Gaethje. My fight is on the Jorge Masvidal bout. But we'll see. There's money to be made, and let's see what happens when this fight goes down at some point in time in the future. He's talking about March. I hope we get him. I hope A, he stays out of trouble. B, we get to the culmination of those allegations and investigations in Ireland. We find out what really happened there, and if he is found guilty or if he's found, have done something wrong, he should face the punishment. And if not, let him keep fighting. Let him get on the March card.